Hi everyone, this is Karen and I've come to do a video. I had showed this card on another video and I did get a request on how I am doing it, so I'm going to show you step by step how everything's done. First off, it is a Spellbinders die, and I have a die machine that I use to cut everything out. The die number is S6-001. Now this is a older Spellbinders die. It's not the easiest one to find. It comes with a rectangle that's plain, so it cuts out just a rectangle. It has a delicate framework here with a die that cuts out the centerpiece. And then it has a little framework here and a die that cuts out the center of that one. A little Merry Christmas and a bunch of little tiny hollies. So I'm going to show you, this is how delicate the dies are. They are very thin and very small. Not what I'm used to with dies. They're usually a little thicker. Anyway, it comes like this on the card, but each one of these is separate. And what I did, because I'm kind of frugal on paper because paper gets to be expensive, is I went and I taped it together with a little bit of space in between, and I used my post-it tape on the back here to tape it so these pieces stick together. So when I cut it, it'll actually cut out the single pieces with their insides cut out. So say this portion here, if I didn't have this little one, it would be the outside and the inside would be filled in with the same color paper. But if you leave that die, it'll cut it out. Let's see if I have one of these in a different color, so I'll show you what I mean. It would just be a solid sheet in there instead of cutting out. But this is what the look I was going for, to put a different color in the background, so I have this as a separate cutout. This particular piece is actually another die that I have to use to cut that out, because the other piece would just put an inlay in here and I want it behind it. So it's a bunch of different dies. So that is the one die I have, and then I'll show you the next one. Okay, this is what I'm used to in Dieville. See how big and fat these are. Widthwise here, not so delicate. These are the rectangle dies. Boom, we'll turn them over. And they are called Spellbinders Nestability Card Creator number 7. There is a basic B set and a basic, and I'm going to lose them all, A set. Okay, so A and B are different sets. They're both rectangular. They are both, when you use them, they're I believe they're a 1/4 or an 1/8 of an inch difference between each rectangle, but they're both different sizes. So if you're looking for one that's a 7 and a 6 7/8, you can get it in one set, and if you're looking for smaller or bigger, whichever, you find it in the other set. So between these two sets, I found the rectangle to go behind this rectangle and give me a little tiny border. And I mean little, it just shows a tiny bit of the silver on the outside, but it also found one that gives me the little border that goes around the outside, making this card about a 7-inch by 5-inch card. Nice and big. So the silver that gets cut back here is from this set, and the silver that gets cut back here is in the set. One is from the A set, one is from the B set. You could skip that just by cutting out your rectangles with a cutting board or an X-Acto knife, but this makes it easier for me. So I had to use that one also. Then I take this die out again after I've cut out all the basic shapes. Since I'm doing 25 cards in this particular pattern, I cut out 25 in the what we call mirror finished paper. That's that really shiny stuff. So I do 25 of the whole kit and caboodle. And the Merry Christmas cuts out and looks like this. And I do it in the mirror also. So we do this 25 times, and in order to do that, you put down your card stock on. I have to clean it before I do that. So all these little pieces of paper have to come out, or your cut isn't as nice and sharp as you should have it. So we just clean these out. I'll do that off camera. And while I'm getting all these cleaned out, well, I'm going to set the camera up over to the side of my desk in a little place where I keep my Spellbinders die cutting machine and everything else, and I'll show you how I go ahead and cut one of these out and how taping all these together saves me a ton of time instead of having to cut one of these, one of these, one of these, one of these, one of these. But you just have to make sure you have it taped in a couple areas so when you put it down on the paper, nothing shifts, because nothing worse than having one of these shift and break the whole process. So I'll be right back in another position. Okay, here we are on the other side of my area. My desk is over there, and this is my window area. It has a raised deep set window, kind of like a bay window, but upstairs. This is my cardstock, nice and shiny. Say hi. I have to cut this down, so this is my cutting board. It's a Fiskars, and it has a measuring stick that goes out to 15 inches, just in case I need something that big. We're just going to cut this in half. It's an 8.5 by 11, so we cut it down to 5.5. All right. One of these sides of the paper is going to have a little sticky thing on here, and you have to peel that off or the die will not cut through too terribly well. I found that out the hard way. Okay, so then we have our cutting plates. I have a white piece of paper in here. This is the white plate, and I believe it has a letter on it. Yes, it's a C. I put it face down on that. That's where I cut. This is the one that sits on top and puts the pressure on and cuts it down. Spellbinders 101. If you don't know what a spellbinding machine is, it is just a great big rolling bar in here that pushes pressure down on the plates that I'm putting in. So when it rolls on top of this, it pushes this down with a lot of pressure to cut through that paper. So this is what we call a sandwich. We stick it in, put it in this machine, and then we crank this through. This sometimes can get very difficult, especially since I have so many dies on there at one time. So if you don't have a lot of arm strength, this probably is not the best tool for you, and it makes a lot of noise. It's kind of old. You can buy an electric one of these where you just stick it in and press a button and it goes through. But like I said, I'm frugal. I use what I have. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over, and you're going to see that we have some cutting done here, and this will come flying off. But you'll also see it didn't cut in some areas. So what I do is just turn it over. Hold on a second. Okay, what I do is I take it, when it went through this way, I'll turn the thing around, put it back on the cutting mat. Got to go face down. and run it through again on the other side. Because there are so many dies, sometimes the pressure isn't as good as it should be if you were running them through singly. But as I said, this way saves a lot on the paper. These sheets of paper that have a mirror finish on them are about $2.50 a sheet. Okay, you double check, everything looks like it is cut through. In fact, some of the pieces are falling out. And what I'm going to do is bring you back over to my desk and we will pull all of these out. Okay, kind of figured out that didn't record, so I'm going to show you a little bit more. It's done the same way as the one I put underneath the book. So I put the silver on top of the white cardstock with glue, and then I glued on the silver piece on the bottom. I'm going to show you how I did that with this one. Okay, this is Aleene's Clear Gel Tacky Glue, and I'm going to use that on the little card thing here. Just going to run it around. I use this one because the shiny glue, or the shiny paper I'm putting it on, has kind of divots in it, and you have to get a good contact between these two so your card does not fall apart. Okay, so we put the glue on, and because it's wet glue, we can put the piece down and then kind of move it around to where we like the distance between the sides and the tops. I use a washcloth to kind of smush it down a little bit. If I get any overspill of the clear glue, I can wipe it off. Make sure it's pressed down well, and then I will put it under a heavy book to keep it from curling up, but I want it to press it down a little bit to make sure. I'm just going to stick it on the other one. I get a good bond between the two. Now with the Christmas, Merry Christmas here, we're going to put it on white cardstock. We're going to get the little center of the E out maybe. There we go. Like so, anything that we have here we can just pull out. I lay this in my hand and I'm going to use the Tombow Mono Liquid Glue. It's called Aqua. Means it's a kind of a water base. And we're going to take that little end and we're just going to dot around on every letter a little bit of glue. When you start doing this, you kind of get the hint of where you're supposed to be putting the dots of glue so the pieces don't stick up. Like these tails and the tiny little curly cues are notorious for not sticking down. They also have the least amount of space to put glue. So just little dots work quite well. So when you're putting it down on this paper, you have to know kind of where to stick the C and the S, and everybody else kind of smushes down where they're supposed to be. You want to squish it down a little bit and then get your little rag, give it a nice push, and then wipe gently to make sure we don't have any glue sticking out. And then again, we're going to stick it under the book. Give it pressure and let it dry. So this will take about 3 minutes tops for those to dry, and we'll come right back and I'll show you how we assemble. Okay, everything should be dry, pressed, and we will assemble the card top. Okay, we're going to take this piece here, turn it over, take our foam tape, and we're going to cut it into little pieces. It is double backed, so we stick some down on this side and one in the middle because you do not want your card collapsing. We're going to do the same with the Merry Christmas part. 3 pieces going about the same place. To be cut a little smaller because it is a smaller card. Boom. So it's all stuck down. We're going to apply those to this piece here. We just peel off this side of the tape, and it's sticky on this side too. Pull those off. We take this piece, it doesn't matter on this one what's up and down, like this one it does because we have a name on it. We lay it down, and I know it kind of goes with a tiny bit of silver top and bottom, both sides. So I just kind of line it up there and then press it down. We have the tape here, so these are open on the sides. If you wanted to, you could take a piece of ribbon and run it there and tie a bow, which is always pretty. It doesn't mail well. Since I'm planning on mailing these, I don't do too much embellishment. It just gets more expensive, and it's expensive enough to mail anything, basically, nowadays. So this one will fit exactly inside this because it's cut with the same dies. So you just want to line it up so it looks like it fits on the bottom, and it'll fit right on the top. Press it in the center and on the sides to get it to glue down. And again, this is open on the sides because it's raised up. You can do all sorts of stuff with this if you were just going to give this card to somebody, you know, as a hand card. You could stick, like I said, a ribbon under here and tie a cute little bow. This set comes with a die that puts out, I thought I had one on my desk. Yes, I do. Little holly. So you could cut out a piece of holly and stick it up here, or you could stick it underneath any of these. You could do that with flowers or anything. Sequins. I might put a few sequins in, and you can tuck a couple underneath. Those go through the mail fine. Now what we need to do is give this a card. What I do is take a piece of regular old cardstock, probably one without a little piece of red there, but it's not really going to matter because we're going to use it as front. We're going to take the card, and I take it over to my, maybe I'll bring that over. Hold on one second, and I'll show you how I do that part. Give you a white piece of paper to stare at for a second. I know, not very exciting. All right, here's my cutting board. And what I do to make a card base is I take out the cutting blade. They just kind of pop right out. You could get one of these that has a scoring blade on it, but you know, I don't have that. So again, it's an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. So half of the 11 is 5.5-ish. That's what I'm going to do. It's, I know 5 is 10, so a half and a half is 11. We're just going to run it down this channel. There's a little divot here, and that's where the cutting blade goes in to cut your paper. We're going to use that as our guideline, and we're just going to draw a line down. And this is a bone folder. It's a piece of plastic that has a soft round edge, and I just follow it down, and you'll see we have now a dent in our paper. The reason for that dent is we're going to fold it. I should probably fold it the other way. I usually fold it this way, but that's probably going to show. So we'll fold it this way. You line up the edges, and in that crease, the paper will crease right where that is. But you do want to keep it in line, because sometimes it'll go off. Take your bone folder, make your pressure on both sides, and give it a nice crease so your card will stay folded. All right, Now our card base is going to get glued right onto here, and then I'm going to be cutting off the excess. We can either cut off the excess now or cut off the excess later. It doesn't really matter when you do it. This is a advanced tape glider. It's a tape gun. It has a double-sided tape on it, and we're just going to lay it down on the card base all around all corners. You get a lot on there just because you want this to stick. Okay, and it is really sticky. Sometimes it's too sticky. We want to line this up. So the best thing I can do is put it down on the board or the thing or my desk, whatever you want to call this. Line it up on one side and we press it down. Okay, that is the start of our card. So we have the flipping part here and the card front up here. We're going to need our blade back. Bring over our cutter. I don't know if you can see the bottom of the cutter here. Go. We're going to line this up on the bottom. It has a ridge here. And we're going to line it up right here. And we're going to put in our cutting blade. This part you can't really see, but there's a little line here, and that line has to line up with that. We have to hold this down, and if we got this straight, we'll be able just to cut it right there. Got to go over it a few times because it's going through two pieces of card, and then you get a nice little cut. You do that one more time on this side. Get that off. If you don't cut through, it will pull off, and there is our card. All nice and finished, ready for a stamp on the inside and for you to put anything in here that you like. I will probably make another fancy little die cut to put in here with a stamped image on it and then glue that down. You can't see the little hole that I cut out, which is really nice, and we have a nice pretty card. I usually stamp my stamp on the back, tell everybody who it's from. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you all have a Merry Christmas. Bye now. Take care.